Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to FortiConnection. This is a career-focused series and part of the FortinetLIVE interviews that we're doing. My name is Rob Rashotte. I'm the VP of Training and Education here at Fortinet. And joining me today to talk about his career in tech and share some career advice is Dennis Schultz, the Executive Director of Blackson Technology. Glad you could join us here today, Dennis.
Hey, thanks for having me, Rob.
So before we jump in and talk about your specific career, could you just start off by sharing a little bit about Blackson Technology and your overall mission of the organization?
Sure. I always like to tell people we do what it sounds like we should do, which is, advocate for the promotion and inclusion of people of African descent in tech. So our mission is to stomp the divide. That's our tagline. And the divide meaning the difference in between people who work in tech and people who are aspiring to be in tech. Right now, there's about 3% representation of people of African descent in the tech industry, and we want to close that. We want to see that more typical of what the Black population represents in the United States and around the world.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about looking for careers in tech. We're in Cybersecurity Awareness Month right now in October, and this particular week is actually focused on cybersecurity careers. So we hear a lot about the gap within the industry. 3.4 million jobs need to be filled in the industry. So it's a huge gap. There's a lot of opportunities. I understand. In addition to being the executive director at BIT, you're also an employee at Microsoft. So it sounds like you've had an interesting career so far. Can you share with us a little bit about sort of your personal journey in tech and how that's gone for you and sort of what your journey has been so far? Sure.
So when I started my career, and I won't tell you how old I am, but I guess I'm going to age myself anyway. Back in the mid 90s when the internet was young, I started my career at American Power Conversion, APC. And I was in customer service, answering phones and doing support and troubleshooting. And my goal ultimately was to get into tech sales. So I was basically troubleshooting busted surge protectors and UPSs, and ended up working in data centers for APC in the New York City area. So from there, I ended up moving from the more hardware side of things into software. So I moved to Seagate Software, which got acquired by Veritas Software, which became Seagate, Symantec. Rather. From there, I've been pretty much, working in major OEMs for the majority of my career. So I've been at Dell and Lenovo and Samsung and Gardner and Dropbox and HPE and Rackspace and a few others. I won't go through the whole list, but more or less in customer-facing roles, working in and around technology, helping digital transformation of some very large companies.
Yes, it sounds, like you've had what in some cases we would refer to as a non-traditional career path, particularly in cybersecurity. One of the dilemmas we have is within cybersecurity, there does still tend to be this assumption that the baseline, the starting point for careers in cyber is a university degree, and I think you're a really good example of showing that that's not the case. That there's lots of career paths within tech and within cyber. I think, as you say, your career path is a good example of that. I know when we talk a lot about the skills gap in cyber and in tech overall, the numbers are so large, it's quite daunting. And I think we really do need to take a close look at the different career paths within tech. And, a university degree is not the only way to get there. On the job training, as you've described, there's a lot of really skilled people out there that are coming from what we would consider to be non-traditional roles, non-traditional paths, people that are self-taught, people that are, from underrepresented groups, people, in military careers that are transitioning into civilian careers. So, when we're talking about gaps in the millions of people, we really need to look at all these different types of paths to really, truly try to address the skills gap. Fortinet, we have a commitment, obviously, to closing the cyber skills gap in particular. The Fortinet Training Institute is laser focused on that. As you know, as being a partner, we have an education outreach program where our objective really is to reach out to as many populations as we can and cultivating partnerships with organizations like BIT to drive a skilled, inclusive, diverse cybersecurity workforce. We're very proud to partner with organizations like BIT. As far as your membership goes, can you give us a little bit of insight into the benefits that your partner or that your members are seeing from partnerships like the one with Fortinet?
Yeah, sure. And just to kind of echo what you were saying about the paths into the industry. I mean, it's a unique time for technology and IT, where a lot of companies had 4-year requirements for degrees, specifically in computer science, before they would even consider hiring someone in a technical role. Now, because there are so many opportunities and so many open requisitions that can't be filled by all the people who are getting computer science degrees, they have to, loosen up that requirement. So that opens the door specifically now for people who want to get into the industry without a 4-year degree. And programs like Fortinet and other self-paced learning programs where you can basically skill yourself up are really becoming the credentials needed, those practitioner level skills that are required by the companies who want to hire. As long as you can do the work, they're willing to give you a shot, is what we're seeing. And we're trying to get the word out and evangelize to our members and prospective members that, hey, you know what, if you're working and you're doing project management, or maybe you're doing, food service or hospitality, there are some transferable skills that may be related to a tech career. And in fact, there's a lot of careers in cybersecurity around, governance and compliance that don't require you to know networking, but if you want to dive into the technical, we definitely have programs like the Fortinet program, which basically takes you from very beginner level skills up into a point where if you complete the level 4 certification, you'll be considered for entry roles in cybersecurity, which is great. Another thing I'll kind of circle back and kind of elaborate on, I kind of gave a high level overview of the organization's mission, but I didn't really say kind of who we were. We are the largest technical organization for IT professionals of African descent. We have, at last count, over 28,000 members representing 20 countries and over 80 chapters. So we're pretty large in scale. And what we try to do is offer programs that not only suit the people who currently work in IT, but also the people who are transitioning in. The people who are already in the industry, we want to see them move into senior level management and executive roles. But there are a number of people who we want to reduce the barrier to entry for and provide resources around and support. So we have mentorship programs and technical coaching for anybody who's interested. And the fact that Fortinet is a program that doesn't have a fee associated means that there are a lot of opportunities for people to just test the waters and see if it's something that they'd be interested in pursuing a career in. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that cybersecurity is one of the fastest growing and highly demand specializations in tech. As you mentioned, there are millions of jobs open. From our program launch this summer, we've got over 1,000 people who've apply to receive Fortinet certification training. So the demand is there, and we're just here to support and keep feeding the demand.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that you brought up there that I'm hearing over and over again when we're working with different organizations. We work with a lot of government agencies around the world on trying to address the workforce issues and so on. And we really are hearing a lot about this. The folks coming into the industry from all these different career paths, people transitioning from military is a good example where you mentioned there's a lot of transferable skills. Military service members are a really great example of that, where they're used to working in very high pressure situations and ambiguous settings and so on. And so there's a lot of that type of characteristic is present in cyber. So I absolutely agree with you. There's a lot of skills that are very transferable. And the point as well that it's not, as this industry continues to mature, there's a lot of roles that aren't necessarily what you would, traditionally think of as the really techie role, where there's a lot of skills that you can bring to bear in a cyber role that aren't necessarily about just networking and cyber security that we would traditionally think of, security operations and policy and so on. There's a lot of other skills that can be brought to bear on the problem. The other thing that you mentioned is not just people coming into the industry, but also people progressing within the industry is very important as well from a training perspective. We all know, not just in cyber, but in technology, there's always a need to be continuously learning. So, programs, organizations like yours that are looking at not just bringing people into the industry, but also progressing into more senior roles, I think is really important and critical as well. I was very happy to hear that we were sponsoring your conference this year. We received some really great feedback on the conference. It sounds like it was really successful. Can you talk about that a little bit? I'm assuming you got just as much, if not more, positive feedback as we heard as well. Can you give us a bit of an insight as to how that went?
Sure. And this has been our 5th annual conference. It was in Nashville this year. We were overwhelmed with positive feedback in the post-event survey. I think for me, one of the managers and facilitators of the event, it's always gratifying to see people appreciate the work that was put in. But the biggest takeaways I would say is that we had in-person interactions of all stripes, from the casual social interactions to recruiters, looking to network and meet people. From the event, we had over a dozen people hired at the conference, and some people were in the interview process and received their offer at the conference, which was really nice, from some major companies. And then some people were actually interviewed during the conference and received offers before they left. So for us, that's the win, right? If we can provide people with the opportunity not only to network and socialize and get some additional training that they can apply to their jobs, but to actually receive offers and get jobs and make more money, I love that. Next year we're going to be in Atlanta, so we move around every year, and the plan is to be around the same time. We don't have the date locked in yet, or we probably, by the time this airs, we probably will have the date locked in, but it's probably going to be early September. Atlanta. So if anybody out there wants to attend, you got plenty of time to prepare. We'd love to see you there.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly can't argue with that. I mean, people going to the conference and leaving with job offers, boy, that definitely definitely hits the mark. I mean, that's the whole reason we're doing this. So sounds like it was a fantastic conference. Dennis, I'd love to thank you again for taking the time, talking to us about your journey, about your organization, Blacks in Technology. Sounds like you're doing some amazing work. For those of you that are tuning in, if you're considering a career move, If you're looking at technology roles, I'd certainly encourage you to consider cyber. Take a look at all the resources that are out there. There's a lot of free resources. Certainly the Fortinet Training Institute has tons and tons of free training opportunities, either directly or through an organization like Flex and Tech. For those of you that are already in cyber careers, you're professionals in the field already, check out the Fortinet Training Institute webpage on Fortinet.com. Again, there's tons of resources that are available, many of them free of charge. So, okay, thanks, Dennis. Appreciate you taking the time. And thanks for everyone for tuning in and spending a bit of time with us today.
Thanks, Rob.